Most people think saving money is about pinching pennies and cutting every joy out of life. Solomon would disagree. The wealthiest king in Israel's history didn't live like a miser. He lived in abundance, yet his fortune never slipped through his fingers. Here's the twist. His secret wasn't about making more money. It was about mastering how to keep it without feeling deprived. In today's world, we're told to hustle harder, get a side gig, and grind until we can finally enjoy life. But what if the Bible shows a way to save that actually frees you now, not 30 years from now? Solomon's method is so simple, yet so few Christians actually use it. And that's why many end up broke, even with a steady paycheck. What I'm about to share flips the script on everything you've been taught about saving. It's not about fear. It's not about luck. It's about a mindset and a method that works in every economy. One that has stood the test of thousands of years. If you're tired of feeling like your money disappears before the month ends, this could be the turning point. Why Solomon's wealth wasn't just about making money. Solomon's fortune didn't come from chasing every shiny coin he could find. His wealth was a byproduct of something deeper, wisdom applied to money. The Bible says in 1 Kings 3:13 that God gave him both riches and honor, but those were the results of Solomon's request for understanding, not his main pursuit. Many people today focus only on how to make money. But Solomon knew the bigger secret. Wealth is sustained not by how much you earn, but by how well you manage, protect, and multiply what God has already placed in your hands. If Solomon lived in modern times, he wouldn't be obsessed with the latest business trends just to impress his neighbors. Instead, he would study the flow of his income, guard his spending, and ensure that every transaction aligned with his values. That's why Proverbs 21:20 says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down." This wasn't about hoarding, it was about strategic preservation. Solomon's wealth had a foundation, and that foundation was self-control. Many people fail financially because they confuse abundance with excess. Solomon's abundance came with purpose. In his kingdom, money was a tool to build the temple, bless his people, and maintain peace. Think of this. If you earn $5,000 a month but spend $5,100, you're going backward, no matter how high your income. Solomon would call that living outside of God's wisdom. He understood that without discipline, even kings go broke. In today's world, the Solomon mindset could look like setting up a savings plan before you even touch your paycheck. For example, allocating 20% to savings and investments before paying for anything else. He would diversify, maybe owning property, funding trade expeditions, and holding reserves of gold and grain. The modern equivalent? Real estate, stable dividend-paying stocks, and an emergency fund that covers at least 6 months of expenses. But here's the part most people miss. Solomon's saving habit wasn't driven by fear of lack. It was built on faith in God's provision and a responsibility to steward resources wisely. He knew that money without wisdom leads to ruin, but wisdom with money leads to stability for generations. That's why Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." Saving wasn't just about him. It was about the kingdom legacy. If we're honest, many of us focus so much on making money that we ignore the equally important skill of keeping money. Solomon's secret forces us to slow down and think, am I building something that will last, or just chasing the next paycheck? And as we'll see in the next principle, the biggest obstacle to saving isn't always income. It's something far more hidden. The hidden reason. Most people fail at saving. Most people think the reason they can't save money is because they don't make enough. While income plays a role, Solomon would say the real enemy is not how much you earn, but how you think about money. Proverbs 23:7 reminds us, "For as he thinks in his heart, so is he." If you believe money is meant to be spent the moment it arrives, you'll never keep it, even if you double your income. This mindset is why some people making 6 figures are still living paycheck to paycheck. The hidden reason most fail at saving is lifestyle inflation. As soon as people earn more, they spend more, often on things they never needed before. Solomon's wisdom cuts through this trap by teaching contentment. Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth with turmoil. Proverbs 15:16. Without self-control, every raise becomes an invitation to upgrade your car, house, or wardrobe, and your bank account stays empty. Another subtle trap is emotional spending. In Solomon's time, wealth could be displayed with lavish feasts or ornate garments. Today, it's gadgets, luxury brands, and overpriced vacations. Many justify it as rewarding themselves for hard work. But as Solomon might remind us, real rewards come when your money starts working for you, not when it disappears the moment you get it. There's also the problem of undefined goals. People who don't set a clear target for their savings often end up saving what's left, which is usually nothing. Solomon's strategic mind would approach saving like building the temple, with a plan, a timeline, and dedicated resources. For someone today, that could mean deciding, I will save $10,000 in the next 12 months, then breaking it into monthly and weekly goals so progress is tangible. The Bible warns in Proverbs 6:6-8 to consider the ant, which stores its provisions in summer and gathers food at harvest. Ants don't wait to see what's left over, they save first. Most people reverse the order. They spend, then think about saving. That's why Solomon's wisdom teaches paying yourself before paying anyone else. Even if it's 10% of every dollar, starting now creates a habit that compounds over time. Ultimately, the hidden reason people fail to save is that they see saving as optional instead of essential. Solomon would flip that script. Saving isn't just a financial discipline, it's an act of stewardship and obedience. And once that truth sinks in, the way you handle money changes completely. In the next principle, we'll uncover the biblical foundation for storing up wealth without fear or guilt. The biblical principle of storing up without fear. In Proverbs 21:20, Solomon teaches the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. Notice the tone. Storing is portrayed as wise, not greedy. The Bible doesn't condemn saving, it condemns hoarding for selfish gain. The difference is motive. When you save with the goal of stewarding God's provision for future needs, you align your money with His wisdom. Fear-based saving clutches money as if God won't provide tomorrow, but faith-based saving plans wisely while trusting His supply. Many believers avoid saving because they've been told it shows a lack of faith. Solomon's life disproves that. His wealth was vast, yet he continually invested in the infrastructure of his kingdom. He stored timber, gold, and grain, not because he feared lack, but because he understood seasons change. In modern terms, it's like building an emergency fund, not because you expect disaster, but because you know preparation honors God's design. The biblical storehouse principle appears in Genesis 41, when Joseph stored grain during the 7 years of abundance to survive the 7 years of famine. This wasn't hoarding, it was divine strategy. God gave Joseph the wisdom to prepare, and the result saved not only Egypt, but surrounding nations. For us, the storehouse might be a savings account, investment portfolio, or even a pantry stocked for unexpected needs. Fear-driven saving keeps you from generosity. Faith-driven saving empowers it. If you have reserves, you can help a struggling family, support a ministry, or seize a God-given business opportunity without going into debt. Solomon understood that wealth without generosity rots the soul. Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. Diversifying resources is not just smart, it's scriptural. In practical terms, storing up without fear could look like setting aside a fixed percentage of your income every month before you spend anything else. For example, deciding that 20% goes into savings and investments while also keeping your heart open to God's promptings for giving. This keeps money in its rightful place, as a servant, not a master. When saving is rooted in trust, it brings peace, not anxiety. You're no longer checking your account out of fear, but out of stewardship. And just as Joseph's preparation opened the door for influence, your preparation can position you for kingdom impact. In the next section, we'll explore how Solomon's meticulous planning ensured that not a single coin in his kingdom went to waste. Solomon's method: planning every coin before it's spent. Solomon didn't leave his wealth to chance. As a ruler, he knew that a kingdom without financial order would collapse under its own weight. 1 Chronicles 29:2 records how he prepared, with all my might, the resources for building the temple: gold for gold things, silver for silver, timber for timber. Nothing was random. Every resource had a destination before it was even acquired. That same principle applies to personal finance today. Every coin needs an assignment before it leaves your hand. This mirrors the modern zero-based budgeting concept, where your income minus expenses equals zero. Not because you spent it all, but because you've told every dollar where to go. Solomon's version wasn't a spreadsheet. It was a mindset of intentional stewardship. He didn't just collect wealth. He directed it like a general commands his army, ensuring no resource wandered aimlessly. Many people fail financially because they react to expenses instead of directing them. They wait for bills to come, then wonder where their money went. Solomon would see that as poor governance. In his court, Resources for construction, trade, and the royal household were allocated before the first brick was laid or the first merchant ship set sail. Planning eliminated surprises and built stability. Applying this today could mean setting up a monthly plan where essentials, savings, investments, and giving are decided before spending on anything else. For example, you might allocate 50% to needs, 20% to savings/investments, 10% to giving, and the remaining 20% to discretionary spending. This doesn't limit freedom, it protects it. When you control your money, you control your options. Biblically, this is rooted in Proverbs 27:23-24. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds, for riches do not endure forever. Solomon's era didn't have stock portfolios, but they understood assets, whether flocks, fields, or gold, needed constant oversight. The modern flock could be your bank accounts, retirement funds, and business assets. Planning every coin before it's spent doesn't make you rigid. It makes you ready. It means you can respond to opportunities and challenges without panic. And as we'll see in the next principle, Solomon's discipline wasn't just about managing what came in. It was about practicing habits that kept his finances strong no matter the season. How to practice Solomon's saving habit today. Solomon's saving habit wasn't a lucky accident. It was an intentional rhythm. Ecclesiastes 11:6 says, "Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle, for you do not know which will succeed." This reflects a life of steady, consistent action rather than impulsive financial decisions. Practicing this today means turning saving into a habit that happens automatically, not occasionally when there's extra left over. One modern way to mirror Solomon's discipline is through automation. Set up your accounts so a portion of your income goes directly into savings or investments the moment you get paid. This removes the temptation to spend it first. For example, if you decide 20% of your earnings go into an index fund or high-yield savings account, make it happen before your checking account even sees the money. Solomon also diversified his resources, from international trade to domestic agriculture. For you, that could mean splitting your savings across short-term liquidity, emergency fund, mid-term investments, bonds, CDs, and long-term growth, stocks, real estate. The idea is that your money isn't just sitting, it's working in different fields, so that one harvest failure doesn't wipe you out. Another way to apply his method is to assign purpose to each savings goal. Instead of lumping everything into one account, create specific storehouses. You might have a travel fund, a home repair fund, a retirement account, and a giving fund. This aligns with 1 Kings 10:21, where each resource in Solomon's palace had a designated use. Purposeful allocation prevents aimless saving and increases motivation. Tracking progress is also key. Solomon knew the weight and measure of his treasures, 1 Kings 10:14. And you should too, whether it's a budgeting app, a spreadsheet, or pen and paper. Reviewing your savings monthly keeps your goals in sight and your discipline sharp. It's hard to improve what you don't measure. Finally, practicing Solomon's saving habit means balancing wisdom with joy. Saving is not about self-denial for the sake of it. It's about ensuring you can live with freedom and generosity in the future. And as we'll explore next, part of that freedom comes from adopting timeless habits that keep your finances strong no matter what challenges arise. 4 timeless habits that keep your finances strong. Solomon's wisdom wasn't just about grand strategies. It was grounded in daily habits. The first habit is living below your means. Ecclesiastes 7:12 says, "Wisdom is a shelter as money is a shelter. But the advantage of knowledge is this: wisdom preserves those who have it." Living modestly, even when income rises, keeps you from the trap of lifestyle inflation. In Solomon's day, kings could flaunt their wealth, yet his writings praise moderation. The second habit is avoiding unnecessary debt. Proverbs 22:7 warns, "The borrower is slave to the lender." Solomon's approach was to build wealth before spending, using stored resources rather than borrowed ones. Today that means resisting high-interest debt, financing luxuries, or carrying balances on credit cards. Instead, fund purchases from savings, and when debt is unavoidable, have a clear repayment plan. The third habit is distinguishing between needs and wants, a principle we saw in his Proverbs and governance. Needs are non-negotiables for survival and stewardship. Wants should be carefully weighed for value and longevity. For example, a quality work tool that lasts years is worth more than a flashy gadget that loses relevance in months. This thinking maximizes return on every dollar spent. The fourth habit is consistent generosity. Solomon understood that giving doesn't weaken your finances. It strengthens your relationship with God's provision. Proverbs 11:25 says, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." Generosity creates a cycle of blessing that selfish accumulation never will. Practically, this could mean setting aside a fixed portion of your budget for giving, just as you do for saving. These 4 habits work together to create financial resilience. Living below your means frees up resources for saving. Avoiding debt protects what you've built. Prioritizing needs ensures efficiency, and generosity keeps your heart aligned with God's kingdom. Solomon's strength came from this balanced approach, where no single habit stood alone. When these habits become part of your lifestyle, your finances begin to feel less like a constant struggle and more like a stable, well-managed kingdom. And as we'll see in the final topic, the biggest transformation happens when your mindset shifts from scarcity to kingdom overflow. From scarcity to kingdom overflow, the mindset shift. Solomon's wealth wasn't sustained by fear of running out. It flowed from a mindset of abundance anchored in God's promises. Scarcity thinking says there's never enough. Abundance thinking says God provides more than enough for His purposes. Proverbs 10:22 declares, "The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, without painful toil for it." The shift starts when you stop treating money as your security and start treating it as a tool entrusted to you for kingdom work. A scarcity mindset often leads to hoarding or overspending, 2 sides of the same coin. Hoarding stems from fear, overspending comes from trying to fill a void. Solomon's mindset avoided both by focusing on stewardship. In modern practice, that means you save diligently, invest wisely, and give generously, knowing that your source is unlimited even if your salary is not. Kingdom overflow doesn't mean reckless spending or ignoring budgets. It means planning like Joseph did in Egypt, storing during abundance so you can meet needs during famine. This perspective frees you from panic when markets shift or unexpected bills arrive. Instead of reacting, you respond from a position of strength and preparedness. One way to embrace this shift is to set giving goals alongside saving goals. For example, aim to increase your giving percentage as your income grows, not just your lifestyle. Solomon's temple wasn't built because he hoarded wealth. It was built because resources were assigned to a divine mission. The same principle applies when you tie your finances to God's purposes today. This mindset also changes how you see opportunities. Scarcity thinking says, "I can't afford to risk it." Kingdom thinking says, "If God is leading, I can step out in faith with wisdom." That could be starting a business, investing in training, or supporting a cause. Decisions that may multiply impact far beyond your lifetime. Ultimately, moving from scarcity to overflow is about aligning your heart with God's economy. When you believe that resources are meant to flow through you, not just to you, saving becomes part of a larger, joyful mission. And now that we've uncovered Solomon's saving secret and the habits behind it, it's time to draw everything together and invite the listener to take action. If you take Solomon's wisdom seriously, your finances won't just survive, they'll thrive. The principles you've just learned are not theories. They are proven strategies from the wisest man who ever lived. The only question is, will you let them stay as interesting ideas, or will you actually put them into practice starting today? Your future self, and maybe your children's children, will thank you for the decision you make now. Don't wait for a financial crisis to wake you up. Start living below your means, set every coin on assignment, and store up with faith, not fear. Write in the comments, "I will save and prosper God's way." And watch how this powerful declaration begins to shift the course of your business and your finances from this day forward. If this message has stirred something in you, consider supporting our ministry through the link in the description. And make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you can keep learning how to handle your money God's way.